show you from the Arctic is one of the most beautiful birds in the world. It is the snowy owl. Now, the snowy owl is the second largest owl in the world. And of course, you can probably tell its eyes are yellow, and that's how you tell what time of day owls come out at, is by looking at their eyes. If their eyes are black, like on a barn owl or a tawny owl, it means they're crepuscular, which means they're active at dusk and dawn. If the owl's eyes are orange, or like an eagle owl, then they're nocturnal, which means they're active at night. But if their eyes are yellow, like in the snowy owl here, then it means they're diurnal, so they're active in the daytime. And to many of you, the snowy owl may look familiar because it was actually Harry Potter's owl Hedwig, from the Harry Potter books written by J.K. Rowling. But, of course, the films got Hedwig very inaccurately, because it's the male snowy owls that are pure white, and the females are quite often, like this one, covered in black speckling. So the filmmakers kind of got it a little bit wrong. But I mean, these are formidable hunters of the Arctic tundra. And in fact, a snowy owl, its main food is lemmings, small furry rodents that tunnel all around under the ground. But they will occasionally hunt Arctic hares, small birds, pretty much anything they can catch. But how they do it is because owls are said to have some of the best hearing of any creature. In fact, just around the side of the head is where the ears are. So when you see an owl doing this with its head, a very distinctive movement, it's listening out for the strongest sound and their relationship to the ears, so they can distance which direction has the strongest sound. But also, when you see owls swiveling their heads right around, that's because an owl's eyes are fixed in their sockets, so they can't move their eyes around like us. They have to swivel their heads around. And of course, like many birds of prey, snowy owls mate for life, and quite often when the female lays the eggs, the male is tasked with bringing her food. And of course, the snowy owl eggs will hatch over a 10-day period, and they're great hunters of the Arctic tundra, both in the summertime and the winter. And of course, they are, to me, one of the most beautiful birds in the world. Fortunately, they aren't threatened or endangered. There are millions of them in the Arctic. Here is their range in the Arctic Circle. Now, the next animal I'm going to show you is the largest of the Weasel-Family, and it was so ferocious and so fearless it inspired an X-Men character. It is the Wolverine. Now, Wolverines are the largest of the Weasel-Family, and they're kind of bigger than a badger with incredibly powerful claws, as well as really strong jaws and teeth, and they can happily take on animals many, many times their own size and have no fear whatsoever. In fact, the Wolverine can bite with the strength of over a ton per square inch. But to put it in perspective, if a small saltwater crocodile has about the same bite force, then it would probably make a bit more sense. And like all members of the Weasel family, they have strong jaws and teeth, so they can bite right through bones, and they also can take on animals that are way bigger than they are, because Wolverines will quite often feed on things like rodents, but also they will feed on large mammals like elk, moose, or anything like that. And they've even been known to fight with bears, which is absolutely phenomenal. And as I mentioned earlier about the Wolverine being so fearless and so brave and ferocious that it inspired the X-Men character Logan or Wolverine. Of course, the Wolverine is an animal I would not want to be in a cage with, because if they can take on a bear, then they would probably... And if I was to get anywhere near a Wolverine in a cage, there is no doubt, despite how they're a bit smaller than me, it would probably shred me. I would probably need to go to the hospital and have a lot of stitching to put me back together, because it would probably take more than a sticking plaster to patch me up. But, of course, Wolverines are very shy and very elusive creatures, and very rarely seen. And they aren't endangered or vulnerable at all. In fact, there are thousands or millions of them in the Arctic, but people rarely see them, as they're very shy and very elusive creatures. Of course, to me, they are one of the most amazing animals on the planet. Not just that they evolved one of the greatest Marvel anti-heroes, but also because they are some of the most amazing members of the Weasel-Family. Here is the range of the Wolverine. Now, the final animal of the polar regions that I'm going to show you is this, the caribou. Now, as I mentioned earlier with the Arctic wolves, caribou are the Arctic's most advanced and specialised species of deer. In fact, they are quite often called reindeer in some parts of the world, but as I said about them being the most specialised deer in the Arctic, the first part of it is their fur, which is on the outside is almost very thick and very coarse, so it locks in heat, and the under fur is very insulating, so it blocks out the colder blasts of wind and snow. And their hooves are like snowshoes, so they keep them above the snow. And when I mentioned earlier about caribou making the longest land migration, when I say that, I mean they can travel for thousands of miles in the summer to reach their calving grounds in northern Alaska, so they can cross right over northern Canada and right into Alaska to reach their breeding grounds. And so where they can feed on cotton grass, which is the perfect food for nursing mothers with newborn calves. But, of course, not all of them make it to their calving grounds, because there are predators waiting for them, like wolves. As I mentioned with the wolves, because packs of them, about 8 to 12 strong, shadow the migration. And at that time of year, they're starving. And it's the caribou they're waiting for, because caribou are a big prize for a pack with pups to feed. But caribou are much bigger than a wolf and armed with hooves and antlers, so they are dangerous. But also in northern Canada, where their migration happens, there's also part of their migration where they are stalked by grizzly bears, because the grizzly bears are in desperate need of protein to supplement their usual diet of roots, berries and moss. And at that time of year, when the caribou are coming into the valleys, then those hills are home to a wider concentration of grizzly bears in the world. Of course, caribou are not endangered or vulnerable, but there are some people in the Arctic, like in Lapland in Finland, where these Sami people have herded reindeer or caribou for generations, but also in parts of the Arctic, like the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia, where the people, the Net people, have been herding caribou for generations, thousands of years. And so you can find caribou all over the Arctic. As you can see, you find them around the Arctic, especially around here and here and here. But their migration pattern, as you can see here in northern Canada, this is their migration, and around about here is where their calving grounds are and where they need to go to give birth and to feed on the cotton grass that is enough to feed, that can help them feed and nurse their calves. Right, that was my representing of the 10 animals of the polar regions that I've been telling you about. If you liked this video or videos, then please drop a comment down below, but also don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well as check out my other PowerPoint presentation videos. And I hope you all enjoy. I'll be making some more soon. Bye.